Good morning. How's everyone doing? Let's just double check the audio here. I always forget something. I think we're doing good. Are we doing good? Check. Perfect. I think we're doing decent. There we go. Helps if the microphone's actually clipped on. There's a little pro tip for you that I've learned in 9 times of doing Mornings with Mark. The microphone is far more effective when it's actually on as opposed to just dangling. Good morning, builders. Hope you're a little more together than I am. I was watching the Canada-Germany hockey game. Don't tell me how it ended because I've got it paused to watch the last couple minutes because I wanted to be on time to talk to you. Now, yesterday we talked a little bit about passwords because Troy Hunt, a fantastic contributor to the security community, released his latest Pwn passwords. Over 500 million passwords this time. So they're all hashed, so you can't read them in plain text, but he gives a count. And that alone tells us a whole bunch of interesting information, but we can reverse the hashing because they are just a simple mechanism to do that, to obfuscate them. So that I'm diving into that data, going to try to see what lessons we can learn from passwords, because passwords continue, unfortunately, to be the best of the worst solutions out there as far as identifying who we are to our systems. Now, I did want to talk today a little bit continuing on that theme. Because F-Secure, a security company out of the EU with the fantastic Mikko Hyppinen, he's a great speaker and contributor to the security community as well. He was highlighting on Twitter their latest incident response report. So this is a report from their consultants who go in and help customers after a breach. And they had a really interesting statistic. They said, and I'm just going to double check on my screen here, 52% of the incidents they were responding to started with social engineering. So again, this is the latest stat in a series of stats that we've seen where systems need to be secured. Absolutely, don't get me wrong there. But again, we're failing our users. We are not doing the right thing needed to educate users to make smart decisions around security. And yes, coffee today, or more accurately, a coffee-flavored sugar drink. Just a little different, mixing it up on a Friday. But yeah, so back to the topic at hand here. Users continue to be a challenge, and I don't mean that in a traditional way. And unfortunately, for the longest time, the security community has always said, the users are the problem, when really the security community is the problem. We are failing utterly and completely to educate users with the right information. We're not giving them the proper information to make decisions in context. We're not teaching them the right things. We do these security awareness campaigns. I'm sure you guys have all been a part of them at work, where they say, hey, don't share your password. Great advice. Make a strong password, and here's how you do it. More than 8 characters, mixed case, number, symbols. Horrible advice. Finally, the main U.S. guidelines, the NIST, the National Institute of Standards for Technology or something like that. NIST updated their guidelines last year on what makes a good password to align with the reality of statistics and probability and human nature. That ties back to Troy's great efforts around Pwn passwords. I'm going to have a blog post up on Medium about passwords real soon. And probably a couple ranty videos on them as well. But again, an area where we failed. Same with phishing. We always tell users, don't click on links in email. What the hell do you think a link is for? A link is solely designed to connect to documents or resources online, and it's designed to be clicked on. So yes, there are some things that you could teach people around links, but not to click on them is not the right thing. The proper advice here, the proper educational material, is to tell people, when you click on a link in your email, if it prompts you for credentials, stop. So if you get emailed a link, you click on it, and it goes and it says, hey, log into Google, stop. Don't log into Google. Open up a new browser window or a new browser tab yourself. Type in your Google address to see if you're logged in, or type in the resource that you think you're trying to achieve as opposed to clicking on the link. That's it. The reason being here is there are way too many URLs, and marketing is the worst abuser of this, because you see the marketing URLs that are like just massive paragraph URLs. There's no way a user can logically determine whether a URL is legitimate or not. However, as a user, if you click on a link that was emailed to you and it immediately prompts you for credentials, that should be a flag. Now you should ask yourself, is this the right context for me to be entering my username and password, or is somebody trying to phish me? We've seen that on a massive scale where people are trying to hook in and get user credentials that way. That is a better way to educate users, because here you're giving them something that's reasonable you can still click on links. If it smells fishy, don't click on it. But if you click on a link and it prompts you for credentials, now you should start asking. Because maybe 1 out of every 10 or 1 out of every 20 emails, the link that you click on asks for credentials or needs you to be authenticated and logged in somewhere. So telling people not to click, unrealistic and not even great security advice. Telling people to question when they're asked for credentials and to make sure that they're really giving them to the site they think, that's far more realistic. And I think that just continues on and on and on. You see, my favorite comes with Mac OS or with Windows. And even on iOS, it happens where it just randomly prompts you for your password and says, hey, you need administrator access. Give it to me. There's not enough information for me as a security professional, as a forensic scientist, to make that decision correctly, to say, hey, yes, this is a proper action that should be authenticated at a higher level. This should have admin access, let alone the average user. And that's a huge failure on us, on the security community, on the development community. That's not a failure on the user. So this is a huge change. And I think there's a lot of complexities and there's a lot of nuance as to why things have ended up this way, but it can't go on. Especially with IoT, especially with connected devices like connected cars and things like this. We are integrating technology on a deeper and deeper level into our lives, and there's some wonderful, wonderful upsides. However, we have completely and utterly failed. It's a lot of adjectives today. We have completely failed to educate the citizenry, the digital citizenry, properly. We are going down tropes. We are, embedding false narratives and putting fake or mythologizing things that shouldn't be true or that simply aren't true. And that's to everybody's detriment. So I think there's a lot of work that needs to be done in this area. I gave a talk 2 years ago called Setting Up Your Security Team, or Your Security Team Set Up to Fail, and tackled the security side of things. I think I've got another talk brewing right here. Great conference coming up in April that I might pitch it to as far as how we've failed to set ourselves up as a security community for the success that we state that we want. So we say we want everybody to be safe and secure, but are we really set up to do that? Are we teaching users and digital citizens the right things? I don't think we are. I think that's entirely on us. And I think we need to do something about it, and that starts by calling it out to ourselves. That starts by questioning things and standing up for what is good for the user, what is right overall. And there's a lot of complexities there, and I think it's really what's the right method to get it out there to raise that question? The questions need to come from both sides, from the average users and from the security community. So that's a really weighty and meaty subject and really deep subject, and it goes off purely on the soft skills, and it reminds me of an article I saw last week that I wanted to tweet out, but I just couldn't bring myself to it, where basically it was, finally some undergraduate degrees and community courses are adding ethics and to computer science, and it just blew my mind, because that's a core question of what we're building, how we're building it. That comes back to security. I know when I did my graduate work, ethics was a core part of it, and it was one of the best courses I took. It was really interesting, and it's something that we need to hold ourselves up to. I'll link below to a great piece that Mike Montero did around designers and designers' responsibility around ethics. And I think if you just sub out designers for security professionals or builders in general, it equally applies to us. We really need to start asking better questions and do what's best for the user as well as for the community, not just for the bottom line. So really weighty Friday. I'm sorry for that, but I'm also not sorry, because I think it's absolutely critical for us. Because I know educating when I work with kids to understand cybersecurity risks and help them start their digital journeys. There's a lot of stuff that we're just failing at. And I think we can do better. I think we have to do better. And I think we will do better. And that starts with conversation. So as always, hit me up online at MarkNCA on all the networks. I would very much like to talk to you about this issue and see all sides of it, because I think it's a very dynamic issue. I think it's a very involved issue, and everybody has something to contribute here. So please let me know what your thoughts are on this and how can we do better. Have a great Friday. Hopefully you're thinking about this. Have a great weekend where hopefully you're not thinking about this. You can just cut loose and relax. And I'll talk to you again on Monday.